Pakistan officials have confirmed its counterattack against India has started under the name Operation Banyan UI Marsoos, meaning wall of lead in Arabic. Pakistan's retaliatory strikes, after accusing India of targeting 3 of its military bases, are a major escalation of the brewing conflict between the two nuclear-armed neighbours. It is also expected to be widely used in military aviation in combat, but Pakistan has a great advantage in this area. Recently, the clash between Pakistani and Indian fighter jets, involving a total of 125 fighters, was one of the largest and longest in modern history. Pakistani military revealed details of the battle. The Indian operation, Sindoor, the purpose of which was to strike bases, was probably conceived as a show of force against Pakistan, and the most trained units were involved in it. They were armed with Rafale fighters with Scalp cruise missiles and Hammer glide bombs, as well as possibly Su-30 MKI with BrahMos missiles. Apparently ERJ-145 or A-50E AWACS aircraft also participated in the operation. The attack was carried out from their own territory, which should have reduced the risks to aviation. However, the Pakistanis were prepared for such a scenario. In response to the appearance of Indian aircraft, they managed to get their aircraft into the air in time, which managed to inflict some damage on the enemy. The Pakistani military officially stated that during the battle, they managed to shoot down at least 5 Indian Air Force aircraft. As the sources added, these include 3 Rafale, as well as 1 MiG-29 and 1 Su-30 MKI. Thus, the greatest losses were suffered by the French-made fighters, 36 of which were purchased in 2016. Just a week ago, 26 units in the carrier-based version Rafale M were also purchased. The possibility of purchasing another 114 aircraft of this model were considered. However, it is now unclear how the fate of the potential deal will turn out. Apparently, the Indian aviation was countered by single-engine fighters, JF-17 Thunder, which have long been in service with Islamabad, and J-10CE, purchased from China in 2021. The latter are part of the elite unit of the Air Force, similar to the Rafale in India. They are capable of using Chinese long-range PL-15 air-to-air missiles with a flight range of up to 200 kilometers. It is likely that they were supported by AWACS aircraft of Chinese or Swedish manufacturer and IL-78 tankers. Like the Indians, the Pakistanis were in the airspace of their country, from where they attacked the enemy's aircraft. Thus, the opponents were at a distance of 100 to 200 kilometers from each other. Indian Air Force proved incompetent in combat. Rafale jet overrated. Pakistani Defense Minister Khawaja Asif said, Pakistan's Air Force is considered to be very well trained and the most organized among all Islamic countries. In any case, this large-scale battle showed that the Rafale is far from a flawless machine, and Chinese aircraft and missiles are capable of effective interception.
Pakistan's military released video on Saturday that it says shows a Fateh-1 missile system engaging Indian targets. According to Associated Press, in the video several missiles are fired from a mobile launcher. State-run Pakistan television said Saturday that retaliatory attacks were underway after India fired missiles at 3 air bases inside Pakistan. It did not give details, and it was unclear which military locations in India were being targeted. Multiple locations in India are being targeted in the retaliatory attacks, the state-run media reported. Pakistan said India fired missiles at 3 air bases inside the country Saturday, but most of the missiles were intercepted and that retaliatory strikes on India were underway. It's the latest escalation in a conflict triggered by a massacre last month that India blames Pakistan for. Pakistani Army spokesman, Lieutenant General Ahmad Sharif, said in a televised address that the country's Air Force assets were safe following the Indian strikes. He added that some of the Indian missiles also hit India's eastern Punjab. Tensions between the nuclear-armed rivals have soared since an attack at a popular tourist site in India-controlled Kashmir left 26 civilians dead, mostly Hindu Indian tourists, on April 22. New Delhi has blamed Pakistan for backing the assault, an accusation Islamabad rejects.
आज 10 मई अल्लाहु अकबर आज 10 मई 05 AM F1 का फायदा दुश्मन के पक्ष के उड़ा अल्लाहु अकबर
The Russian military-industrial complex is a feeding trough for Putin's officials. For example, Putin's inner circle is responsible for the missile component in Russia. Interestingly, among them is a makeup artist, the daughter of one of the officials. This is stated in the material of Channel 24, Terror Industry. How many Kh-101 missiles does Russia plan to produce in 2025? Investigation. The Tactical Missiles Corporation, or KTRV, is one of the largest players in the Russian defense industry. Putin's friends and their children are involved in its operation. Legally, KTRO is 100% owned by the Federal Agency for State Property Management and is one of the main suppliers of weapons and components for Russian aviation. Almost all enterprises included in the holding are engaged in the manufacture of components for the production of a huge number of weapons. Cruise missiles 3M14 caliber, Kh-101, Kh-38, Kh-59 and Kh-69 and other products. The chairman of the board of directors of the corporation is Boris Gryzlov. He was the representative of Russia in the Trilateral Contact Group for the peaceful settlement of the situation in the east of Ukraine, is the chairman of the Supreme Council of United Russia and the current ambassador of Russia to Belarus. KTRV CEO Boris Obnosov is a former employee of the Russian Permanent Mission to the UN and a confidant of Putin. His daughter, makeup artist Olga Zorikova, has a 40% stake in one of her father's companies. Last year, Mikhail Kolesnikov, director of TRV Engineering, was arrested on suspicion of embezzling 40 million rubles. But the criminal case does not prevent him from continuing to actively work to secure Russian defense contracts. The very fact of the businessman's detention indicates that the Kremlin was dissatisfied with the results of the missile attacks on Ukraine. However, since the purchasing company is a pocket feeding trough for Putin's entourage, the activist will not be punished. However, involvement in the manufacture of deadly missiles with which Russia strikes Ukraine makes Kolesnikov, Zorikova, as well as all other employees of TRV-Engineering, not only legitimate targets for our defense forces, but also accomplices in international crimes, the article says.